Welcome back to another one of my videos. This is actually a prequel to my last video, A Cure for Baldness. In this video, I'll talk more in detail about how I got a viral infection on my face and how that led me to discover L-Lysine. My first thought was it was cold sores. And the reason why I thought it was cold sores was because my cousin, who I spent a lot of time with, well, she got cold sores, and what I had looked very similar to what she had, but the main difference was she had it all over her lip and I had it all over my face. Specifically all over my left side. But since it was so similar to each other, I just assumed it was cold sores. And that was my first mistake. So back to my story. Once I assumed that I had cold sores, I asked my cousin what she used, and she told me she used Abrevia, all these other type of ointments and cream. So I went out and got those. And of course, none of them actually helped. So I did some online research, and people said that more times than not, you just have to let it heal. And the only way cold sore heals is just through time. It's very apparent from the pictures that looks kind of nasty and there should be a lot of itching or, I don't know, numbness, but on my face there actually was no pain at all. The pain I did feel was actually inside my head, especially around my nerves. There would be moments, like a couple times a day, where I just feel like someone's sticking a needle through my head, and of course no one was doing that, but that's just how it felt like. It's just like, the other thing that happened to me was late at night, I found it hard to sleep because my lymph node were really swollen, and every time I lie on my back, it would agitate the lymph node. And the reason why lymph nodes are swollen is because they're working extra hard to fight off the viral infection on my face. Well, my second mistake that I made was I didn't actually consult a doctor until like two weeks into it. The main reason why is because I don't have any medical insurance. And the reason why I don't have medical insurance is because I'm somewhat rebelling against Obamacare. I just think it's silly that Obamacare fines you at the end of the year if you don't have medical insurance. So the way I rebelled is I refused to get medical insurance. Take that, Obamacare. As you go through this video, you notice that I made a lot of mistakes, and that is one of the reasons why I am scarred for life. There are parts of my face that will never ever be normal, and that's just something I have to live with. Sucks to be me. You're probably wondering whether I've learned my lesson or not. And to answer that question, I have not. To this day, I still do not have any medical insurance, so if something like that were to happen again, I would be twice as ugly. If that's even possible. Alright, let me explain to you why it's mathematically impossible for me to be twice as ugly. Let me show you what I mean. Here, we have 2 apples, and when you have twice the amount of 2 apples, you get 4 total apples. Now let's say you have 1 apple. If you want twice the amount of just 1 apple, then that gives you 2 total apples. Well, what happens when you have 0 amount of apples? If you want twice the amount of 0 apples, you still get 0. So that's what I mean by it's mathematically impossible for me to be twice as ugly. Because in order for me to be twice as ugly, there has to be some ugliness to begin with. And since there isn't any, then I can't be twice as ugly. Doesn't that sound obvious? It's not rocket science or anything, it's just the way it is. Some of my family who saw me around this time thought I actually got beat up because of all the scabs and redness all over my face. It did look like I got into a bar fight. The only thing I had to say to those people were, you should have seen the other guy. He was much worse off than me. The third mistake I happened was I kept on working when I had the viral infection. People recommend that you stay inside because you can spread it to other people, and also sunlight can agitate it. Third mistake I had was I'm a Popaholic, and if you don't know what that is, look it up. But I had all these blisters on my face, and I couldn't resist grabbing a needle and poking through those blisters so that all the ooze can come out. Little did I know back then that because of that, that's probably why it started spreading to my lip, and then also to my cheek, and also around my ears. So if you're wondering if you have shingles, or the medical term for it, varicella zoster virus, well, these are some of the symptoms that may occur. Is that you may have blisters pop up on one side of your face. So for me, it was on my left side. One side was ugly, the other side was pretty. Anyone can get this viral infection, but in most cases, it happens because you had chickenpox when you were younger. Chickenpox is actually the same virus, it just stays dormant in your body, it never goes away. And if you get stressed out or if your immune system's really weak, that's when it gets reactivated when you're older, and when that happens, it's called shingles. For me, shingles lasted about 3 weeks where it was active, and then another 2 weeks after that for it to heal and get back to normal. Now that I took a step back and looked at an overall picture, I kind of feel like this all happened because of karma. When I found out that my cousin had cold sores, I started making fun of her. The reason being is the scientific term of cold sores is actually herpes simplex virus, so HSV. Back in high school, they taught us a lot about sexually transmitted diseases because they didn't want us to have sex back then. And personally for me, when it comes to STDs, I pay a lot of attention to because it's one of those things that I don't want to get ever in my life. So it was an important part of health class which everyone had to take. And one of these sexual transmitted diseases is called genital herpes. So when I found out that my cousin had herpes on her mouth, I put one and one together and I asked her, how did you get herpes on your lips? Obviously, on the back of my mind, I knew that she would have never done anything like that, but it's always fun to ask just to get a reaction. So I made fun of her, and on Facebook a couple of times I might have put her on blast for having cold sores. And of course, karma hit me last year and gave me a dose of the same medicine that I gave my cousin because I got a viral infection on my face. And of course, I realized how much pain and discomfort you have to go through where you have a viral infection on your face. In defense of myself, back then I was quite young, immature. I was known for being obnoxious, and my cousin even had a term for me, Teho, the A-ho, which I'm glad it never stuck because I would hate to be known as that guy.